All right, round two. I'm not going to go the drawing of waveforms uh, route this time. I think I'm just going to start with like some Reese's. So I'm going to start with I call them manual Reese's, where what I'm going to do is create a really simple Reese that has a very clear beating, and then use Phase Plant's audio follower to create a modulation lane that follows the beating. It kind of does the same thing that my proprietary sampler in Max for Live can do, where the modulation window kind of follows the beating of the Reese, which can yield some really cool results. So let me set that up really quick. So the way that you want to do it so that it stays consistent is just create a separate envelope. You can also just duplicate this group and then send one to the sideband and one to the other, but you can also just create an extra envelope within this group to send out to the sideband, which is what the audio follower is going to use. So there's obviously that movement there, and what we can do is use the remap function to take that tiny range and make it go all the way from 0 to 1. So as you can see, we're just taking this super small range and making it go the full 0 to 1, basically. So like as I take that down, you can see how much it's like there's high frequencies in there that we don't need. So yeah, you can get rid of those with the low pass, but for whatever reason it's been easier for me to use just a slew limiter. But you don't want to go too much further than like 100 milliseconds, because then your modulation window is going to be slightly delayed behind the actual Reese. But then you can also, I've in the past gotten around that by then delaying the dry signal too. It's not really necessary, and sometimes the delayed modulation window relative to the actual beating of the Reese can create its own kind of cool little interplay there. But if you want it to be exactly right on it, what you can do is set this slew limiter to like, 200 or 300, but then delay your Reese 200 to 300, the one that's not going through the sideband, and then that modulation window will line up more. But lining those up isn't necessarily going to yield better results. At that level, it's all going to be fairly random, like what is going to be beneficial and what isn't. So that's a happy medium right there. And I like checking the multiple octaves, because as you go up, the range shifts a little bit upward. is a good balance. That octave is traveling the whole range just like this one is. So the sky's the limit, like what we can modulate with that, and that's what's cool. And it's I got to remember not to open up dialogue windows when I'm holding push to talk. The other thing last stream was that if I do this, you can see how it like there's a word for that, like it reminds me of like old Nintendo scrolling stuff. It's like the screen scrolls. It's because I'm sending my desktop is acting as a fourth monitor. I have 3 monitors here, and then the one that actually sends to my streaming PC is a fourth monitor on the bottom right over here that you can't see and I can't see. But if I bleed anything into it, it leaks to the left side, like you can see there. So that was the one technical difficulty I noticed from the last stream that I'm going to try to fix moving forward, is not leaving plugin windows up like this, to where when I'm doing stuff over here, it goes behind that window and you can't even see what I'm doing. So I'm going to try to get in the habit of just closing these windows. It's just kind of a quirk of the way I have my stream set up. Anyway, this is like one of the most exciting things to me in years, to be honest, as far as like bass design goes, because we literally have a modulation window here that's going to follow the actual beating of the Reese no matter where it is on the keyboard or anything. So, the sky's the limit as far as what you can use what you can modulate that with. And in my sampler and live, you can map that to literally anything, where it just uses the loop window. So you have like a modulation window and it follows the loop window. So as you squeeze or open up that loop window or play it up and down the keyboard, that modulation window also speeds up and slows down with it. And it's kind of the same principle here. It kind of allows you to do really crazy modulations within the actual inherent movement of the sound, rather than adding your own movement on top, which you can also do. But I can get really cool stuff using this one modulation window. And I like trying different stuff, so I'm trying to think of something I've never done with that. Something you can do in here that can just be awesome for experimentation is just load up a bunch of different effects and then just control the dry wet of all of them with that window. So let's do that right now. Do a flanger, we'll do a phaser. And I'm again kind of intentionally not listening to it until I get a bunch of stuff loaded and modulated, and I'll get all the routing done, and then I'll start hearing what it does, because it's going to be bombastic no matter what anyway. What we'll do on the comb is also modulate the frequency and the dry wet together. So let's just try these 5 or 6. Oh, I forgot to pull these down to 0. So it's all fairly mild. Obviously, it'll get more pronounced as we add more destructive elements like, you know, bandpass or low pass filters, stuff like that, or notches, which I really like. Let's try a notch actually. What I like about really wide notches like this is it's almost like you kind of are having like a combined high pass and low pass that are inverted. So like it's like the high pass is using the same modulation as the low pass but inverted. So I don't know. It's just kind of weird. It's like it sounds like, I guess it's not inverted. It's just that you're getting like both the high pass sweep upwards, but then also the low pass opening up at the same time, which creates it's almost like it splits your sound into the highs and lows in a really, you know, in a way that separates them quite a bit. It's a shit explanation. I just like notch filters. I don't know, especially on Reese's, like moving notch filters around like this usually can get really cool stuff. For something like this, we might want to work into some distortion. I always try that starve thing pretty early. So on some sounds, it's just amazing what it does. On others, you know, I'm not really feeling it here, so I'm gonna start over. Starve meaning you put it on 100% wet and then take this all the way down to 0. I think I explained this in the first video I did, but you can do like these little spikes here. It'll just take like certain ranges of amplitude within the sound, mute everything else, like mute from 0 up to -24, but then in the -32 range, you just have a tiny little spike. So it's taking just like a little tiny range of the amplitude within the sound and blowing that up, and it creates those really weird crackles and stuff because it's going from, you know, absolute silence to, you know, it's an instantaneous thing. There's no attack and release on it. I think I'm just going to blow this up the old-fashioned way. Just kind of... Funnily, I don't like anything about this sound yet. But like with sounds like this, sometimes it's like I don't care for the first while. It's like it's almost like about generating interest and uniqueness at first, and then you can apply your aesthetic taste to it and make it sound quote unquote good to you. But starting with something that has a lot going on and a lot you can play with, you know, I don't care as much about how it sounds at this stage as much as I care about like what the potential is later, like what possibilities are opening up as I'm adding different effects and different modulations and macros. Hopefully, like that can be really cool to attach all this stuff to one macro and open it up. I don't think I'm feeling really these like phasers and chorus and stuff. That's like such an old school thing to do. I don't even do that really anymore. It was more to just demonstrate that you can add a bunch of random stuff in here and then modulate the dry wet with the manual modulation window that we created from the beating of the actual Reese. It doesn't matter what you put in here, you know. I don't necessarily like the convolution either here. We could try to fix that, or maybe just... I really like messing with this resonator. It has kind of like a pretty... I wish there was more waveforms you could use here. I don't know if they'd be useful. You know, a sine probably wouldn't be that useful here, so I see why they only did these, but it would be really cool. Maybe in a later update, they'll allow you to like use different waveforms here for this. But I love this because it just allows you to kind of aggressively insert harmonics that don't even belong there. Like you can, like, there's an inherent major third in any, you know, in like in the harmonic series that's really early and it's really pronounced. So like that's always going to be there in big Reese's. There's always going to be the major third in there, which in this case would be G sharp, or I'm sorry, A. So there you're kind of almost emphasizing a harmonic that's already there, but then forcing it to go against that and doing a minor third there instead kind of will create a whole bunch of fighting stuff in there. In one of these tutorials, I really want to go down that rabbit hole of removing the fifth harmonic for specifically that reason. Because a lot of times I'll do minor stacked chords that have like a big sub or a big bass underneath, like a synth that's playing a chord, and the bass in that combination, in that multi, has that fifth harmonic fairly pronounced in there. It's the fifth, right? I really hope I'm not saying that wrong. It should be the fifth. Yeah, it's the fifth harmonic. Major third, basically. Not exactly, I don't think, but for those bass stabs, those multi-bass stabs, I would actually early on notch out the fifth harmonic, because I know that there's going to be a minor third hitting above that. And you can always leave it in there, and it will, you know, sometimes you're taking away a bit of the body or the power of the sound doing that, but also reducing the amount of dissonance in the sound itself. So it's just something to be aware of. And I've never heard of anyone else doing that, but I feel like I've made some of my crazy huge full spectrum bass plus synth stab chord sounds more clean and more musical by taking out that harmonic, because it's a minor chord. If it's a major chord, obviously it doesn't matter, but if it's a minor chord that you're playing on top of it, sometimes it's worth diminishing that, or rather attenuating that fifth harmonic, so that the major third and the minor third aren't fighting each other. Here they are fighting each other, but that can sound cool. It can create a lot of dissonance in there. That's kind of cool. And that's the other thing I like about using the resonator, is that it's stuck on one note, and obviously you can modulate that or automate it. I've done that before, where I'll have like a bass line where that resonator is on one note here, and then as the bass line moves, we'll change what note the resonator's hitting, and I've gotten really cool sounds that way too. But there's something cool about leaving it static to where no matter where your bass is moving around the keyboard, that resonating pitch doesn't change, which creates all kinds of weird relationships between them, you know what I mean? Like, all those are kind of cool in their own way, you know. I might want to bounce out a bunch of these. After cleaning it up a bit, I think there's a little too much there's a lot of unnecessary frequencies in here, I think. And what we could do is maybe, that's something, let me think. What I'm tempted to do is bounce this Reese to audio and then bring it back in with the resonator in it. Those are like two different paths, because we want one path, I want to bounce like as many of those as possible, because the harmonic relationships are weird, and like especially ones that aren't even in scale. Like those end up sounding cooler when they're not even in the right scale. Like that's an E. Like that one's weird. There's a lot of really cool harmonics in that one. Like I don't even know if they're, I mean, there are harmonics, but they're definitely not natural. They're not very cool. I want to start bouncing this immediately. I just don't know how I want to go about cleaning it up before doing that. Maybe. Yeah, I think we just need a kind of a destructive filter on the end to kind of chunk out part of it. Okay, hold on. Lately, I've been trying to, whenever I hear something like that, like bounce it immediately and just get like that saved, because there's no way I'm going to remember to come back and do that. Yeah, that's wild. I'm not gonna lie, I love sounds that sound like digital pain. Like a robot or a computer that has to suffer like humans suffer. No, that sounded terrible. What I mean is it understands the suffering. There's like a communion there, like, you know. I think a lot of our shared experience has to do with pain, and it's like, if you can, you know, that's the thing with digitally made shit. If it hasn't been through 4.5 billion years of evolutionary suffering, like, do you even want to listen to it? And I mean, the speed of the beating here is being dictated by the detuning, so we can up that to make the beating faster, but it will also make it, you know, more kind of wobbly. That's pretty harsh, but could be useful. Sorry, sound design sessions are, don't have it so loud to where I'm going to make you deaf. Keep it at a low enough volume when sounds like that happen, you don't go deaf. I'll try to speak more loudly. What the fuck? That was weird. I warned you. So that went in a totally different direction than I was thinking for this bass, which I kind of like. It was kind of more just showing you the manual Reese function. And, that's such a small part of what a sound can be, but it's a great starting point because you at least know you have a modulation window that's going to follow the natural movement of the sound. And it doesn't have to be a Reese that does that. Reese is just like a really repetitive kind of amplitude beating, but there's sounds always have that, as long as it's not like a static waveform, there'll always be that curve of amplitude for the whole sound. So I recommend using the audio follower in here, which also exists in multipass. You can sidechain into it and follow that. Really, really useful for making kind of really organic sounding modulations. This does not sound organic at all, but cool sounds though. Let me see if I can get some like higher range kind of quick. So now I'm playing seconds, like I'm playing an F and an F sharp together. I should probably get something on my screen that'll show you anytime I'm doing MIDI input what note I'm playing. I apologize, that's not implemented yet. That really low one that was crazy, I was playing A0, which is effectively way beneath where I would ever be able. At that point, it's the fundamental is lower than your sound system is ever going to go. But sometimes you get cool, weird mid stuff there. You can high pass it later, which is, just remove the DC offset basically and end up with really gnarly stuff like this. which is not bad. So there, I'm also doing a second on C0 and C sharp 0. Sorry, that's really loud. I apologize. Those are like really ugly sounds, but I mean, sometimes when you're just writing a project, like writing the song, and sometimes you want something that's just like, you need a sound that is a fuck off sound. And sometimes things like these are perfect for that, where you just bring in this like absolutely wild and untamed sound. So I think we got some cool stuff out of this one. I don't want to spend too long on it. It kind of went in a totally different direction than I was thinking initially, which I love. You know, I have zero expectations about any of the sounds I'm making right now. I'm streaming it, but this is how I approach the process normally when I'm not on stream. Is like, I want to do usually a few days, if not a week or two, of sound design sessions like this, so that I can stack up a folder of cool, unique, interesting sounds, and then create a track with those. Because when you sit down to write a song, the last thing you want to have to do is spend 45 minutes on a sound like this that doesn't even sound usable. You know what I mean? Like, you might think this is such a huge waste of time, but no, I'll find a use for sure for a few of these parts of this sound. Like, there's enough interest and wildness there that it'll be interesting in an actual song. But you would never, in the middle of writing a beat, like go down that rabbit hole, which is one of the main advantages of doing stuff this way. So let me just quickly bounce this out so I have it, and we'll move on. Yeah, I don't know. I can't conceive of any practical use for that in a song, but I guarantee I'll find one. I'm absolutely in love with all the Kiloheart stuff. Like, it's been such a revelation. In my opinion, like, their ecosystem is one of the biggest updates in over a decade in music production. Like, it's just so choice. Because they keep including all the esoteric stuff that you need. Like, even just the ring mod and like the compactor and stuff. Like, it's such an all complete thing. You rarely need to go outside of it. So I'm gonna force myself to go outside of it now and start from something totally different. Actually, let's use a card. Fuck it. Pulling from my random flashcards. So this one is fully crumples. I sold my Neumann, goddammit, or I would use that for this. That'd be perfect. But instead of recording my own, I'm going to cheat and pull from something else. So what can I pull from? I don't want to... At a certain point, I got to cover my tracks. I don't want to, like... I don't think I can legally pull up like a streaming service and watch a movie and then pull like a sound effect out of it. I don't know if I want to do that, though. That's what I would do if I wasn't on stream. Okay, well, it's just a crumple. I can just do that with my vocal mic. We're doing a crumple. What's a crumple? I guess, what's something we can crumple? Paper is the obvious choice. What about, like, I think I have some packing bubbles. I don't think I've ever recorded packing bubbles before. Does that count as a crumple? I think it does. I thought I had some packing peanuts by my foyer from my last delivery, but I think I already tossed them in the recycling. We'll just use paper. Fuck it. That's like always the one. And I've gotten good sounds. I've definitely gotten good sounds this way before. Not good sounds, but just like it's an interesting effect that you can turn into like atmospheric and effects layers. So screw it. Let's just we'll just use my vocal mic and we'll just record some crumply. This actually isn't an SM58. It's a Sennheiser E845, which is like they're kind of the same thing. I used to have an SM58 and just changed it out. I haven't renamed that one. So I guess, yeah. I think what I have to do is... Hello. Hello. Sorry. It's kind of cringy. I'm mic testing over here. I don't know why that's not feeding into here right now. Hello. All right. Well, you know what? I'm dumb because what would be better is I have an SM57 pair X wide, and that'll be even better because then it'll be a stereo. So let's do that instead. Okay. There we go. Ooh, that's kind of sick. Yeah, that will be a great layer. Yeah, that's dope. That's definitely a rip and not a crumple, but whatever. I don't know what that bump came from. As far as I know, I didn't touch the microphone. I don't know what happened there. That one's good. That one's good too. All right, now we got the best of the best. So I'm going to do something I don't normally do here, which is split these do the multi-band, but do it in spectral mode. Because there'll be a lot of low amp info in these sounds, and it could be cool to like blow those up totally differently than everything else. So scrunchy. It's kind of trippy. It almost sounds like a granular delay, like it's like repeating little tiny chunks of it almost. I don't think that's what it would do. Maybe that's just that information in there is so similar, self-similar, that it sounds like it's cycling. That's a trip. And in this state, I mean, it's kind of obvious what it is and where it came from. Like, there's still what I'm hearing we could do to this would be to, like, after we process this, do some weird stuff, create more movement or whatever. Probably not more movement. I want to have like a finalized amp envelope on it to kind of like create individual hits, because it's all just like kind of a wash. It's like, you know, there's no like precise hits or like any kind of percussive element. So I want to try to maybe turn this whole washy stuff into a few like hits that are like etc. Except for this one, the tear one, which should just be by itself, I think. I think we'll want to process that one differently than all this stuff, because that one's like deserves to be its own layer and like a bass sound or something. Kind of sends shivers up your back a little bit. Not entirely sure what this could be useful for, but, you know, sometimes stuff like this can sound good in intros and breakdowns and just really ambient atmospheric sections. And, you know, we can always throw this into like a long delay and reverb and stretch it out, or like, you know, use Paul stretch or something. Like there'll always be like some use for a unique timbre, you know, unique recording of any kind. Yeah, like stuff like this is great. And it has a little bit of burb vibe in there, which I fucking love. Put a burb on it. I just want to get it as close to a real note as possible, because there's clearly that one. So that needs to be at least, you know, chromatic. Doesn't have to be, but I mean, why would you not? That's just what I like about this, is that it started getting tonal with this frequency shifter, so I kind of want to make that the focal point. Yeah, I think that sounds fine. Like I like doing this sometimes. Just bring in a low, just synth note. Like I'll tune it with my ear first, but like the other thing is like this is gonna be way way higher, so I like to throw in like a low sub note and just be like, okay, does this sound like it's out of tune? Like right here, it sounds fine to me. Like it's not gonna be exact, so it's fine as long as it doesn't sound like untunable. That would be a problem. And I'm playing a fifth down from that. This is effectively an E, and I was playing an A there under it. And it's fine. I mean, the only time I want to get that picky with tuning like that is if it's in the actual project and it seems like it's fighting. Then I may go into the sense and actually try to tune in the sense. But for stuff like this, I think this is fine. Okay, so we got two main sounds here. We got this kind of like intro Atmos stuff, and then we got this tear. So I'm gonna put this tear outside of this. So let's try to make this like project ready, because it's not something that I'm going to need to tweak that much. It'll just be like a nice layer to have for a breakdown or an intro. So I'm just going to like do 16 or 32 bars and just kind of try to fill that out with the reverb. I think 16 will be plenty for this. Yeah, they need to be closer together. That's fine. I just wanted to keep it kind of random sounding, like continual, but nothing that pronounced. I think that's fine. We can just bounce this. Cool. So that's another hour. I'm kind of liking this. I think I might stick to this kind of schedule. I mean, until I get like enough followers to where I'm going to need to be doing it at the same time every day so that people know when to catch me. For the first while I'm just stacking these up and building this first song, I really like doing it in kind of hour-long chunks. So I apologize if that doesn't vibe, but it's the best for me because it allows me to do other stuff that I got to do during the day and stuff and just come back to this and start streaming when I can. So I'm going to call this one, and then I'll probably be back for a couple more of these today for sure. I just got to go to the store and do some other things for the time being. So, word, I will catch you soon.